NSA Houston, and welcome to another episode of the President's Podcast. You are in for a treat today because we're teaming up with NSA Southern California's president. I'll let him introduce himself in a second, but where there's smoke, there's fire, and this chapter has a lot of great things going on. And for those of you listening, it's very important to break down those walls, reach out into other states, other chapters, and other great professionals to build your network and see how we can collaborate. So Nick, welcome to the podcast. Go ahead and share a little bit about yourself, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, first, thank you so much for having me as a fellow president, of NSA SoCal. We like to call it, we shorten everything here, SoCal. It is an honor to be here and a privilege to speak with you and other chapters. You're so right about collaboration, about crossing those borders, about connecting with fellow speakers. I think Tom Singer says it best, speakers get speakers business. And having that network is vital to your speaking business. And it's just really great to get to meet people from all over. So thank you for the invitation. I am Nick Demas. I think my mother says it best. I was a born storyteller. At 4 years old, I used to jump up on the table and recite "Once Upon a Time" and begin to tell stories, and which led to working with the neighborhood kids and pulling in. I had a chalkboard, and on one side of the chalkboard was school. And I would literally use old school chalk, and then I would flip the board, and it would be the backdrop for my plays. And on the backside, I would gather all the neighborhood kids, and I would go to my mother's closet, my father's closet, and I'd take all their clothes and make costumes and cowboy hats. I grew up in Montana, so cowboy hats and cowboy boots and my mother's wedding dress, literally. And I would bring all of the neighborhood kids together and create plays. And that's ultimately what my career ended up being. Is that by 16, I was a professional dancer. By 19, I was on my first Broadway show and moved to New York, leading me to becoming a director and a producer, and finally running a regional theater in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, in my late 20s. And that's when speaking caught on, because one of the things I didn't know about running a regional theater is that you have to raise a lot of money. And I'd have to get up onto a stage. And the first time I did it, I was so nervous, Megan. I could barely stand it, because it's very different to be an actor speaking than it is to be yourself on stage. And I had them wheel out a podium that I could just stand behind. And I had this piece of paper, right, that had all of the notes that I needed to say on it. But I didn't count on something. And that was that there was going to be a spotlight. So the spotlight hit my face. I looked down and I couldn't see anything on the paper. And I just started saying whatever could come out of my mouth as fast as I possibly could. And the sweat was dripping, like horrible pit stain sweat. It was so embarrassing. I ran off stage immediately following. And then after the show, there's another tradition at the regional theaters where you greet people after. The producer of the theater greets people, says, "Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for coming." And this big guy, it's what my dad calls a Bubba. Bubba comes barreling towards me, right? A big old guy. And I was scared to death. Honestly, I was scared. He's like, you Nick. And I was like, yeah. He says, what you said up there about a child's voice, their truth reaching the back of the room, you changed my mind. You changed my mind about this theater thing. And that was the moment for me, Megan, when I realized, oh, the power of being able to speak your truth, the power. I had to learn how to really speak my truth to the back of the room fully as me. And that was really the shift into public speaking. So then, of course, I spoke at every Rotary Club. At you name it, I went and did it, right? Because I was like, oh, this is the way. This is the way to connect with people. And eventually, I left that job and went back to Broadway and was a Broadway producer. One of the shows I produced won a Tony Award in 2010, and another was very, very successful. And then I began to realize I wanted to give back. It became, how do I give back? And that's how I began to become a story and speaking coach. And now I do a combination of that. I have a Broadway show in development, but I also have story and speaking courses.
Incredible. Folks, for those of you listening, a Tony Award-winning gentleman right here. Wow. And I love how your story weaves throughout. You're demonstrating your abilities right now as you're sharing your background. And I have to ask you, what's been something that was really hard that you had to overcome? Because sometimes for those, listening, they're getting started on their speaking career, they're trying to figure it out, they hit some roadblocks. What would you say?
I think rejection was a constant throughout this, because while I just gave you the amazing highlights of the wins that I've had, there
Yeah.
were there were so many more rejections. And I was a very sensitive child. Therefore a sensitive young adult. And the acting and dance career, you got rejected maybe 10 times more than you got jobs, at least, right? And so for me, it became this process of learning how to be okay with people saying no to you and not taking it personally. And I think that as a speaker, you're constantly putting yourself out there in the same way. And you're not always going to be received, right? You're not always going to get those jobs. And even when you put yourself out there visibly on social media, and not everyone's going to like what you have to say or do. And I think for me, that was it was really hard at first to deal with that, to manage that. And of course, I've gotten better. There's skill around it, and really holding your own center of truth is so vital and so important, that if you believe in what you have to say, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. You know you're making a difference. If you can know that, then that's a massive shift. But it wasn't always easy.
Sure. Those golden nuggets, you have to earn the shine of them because especially, like you mentioned, as a young adult or in a young child as well, it's just kind of who we are, and then we counter and figure out how we want to be and what we want to adjust. I've had my own similar journey. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and we all have hurts. We all have,
Yeah.
past hurts and, traumas that come into play here too. I mean, I think also there was a part of me, I went to New York City very young because I was really running away from some of the pain and the hurt. And it's gonna re-show up, right? Like if you haven't really dealt with it, it shows up, and for some reason, whatever, the haters online, they know exactly what to point to, right? Like it's uncanny that they can really find, and that it twists and turns in you. And for me now, what I've really come to is, if it quote unquote triggers me, if it's something that like gets under my skin, oh, that's a gift. There's a gift there for me, because that tells me where my work is on myself as a human. Oh, okay, that's something. If it really bugs me, that's something for me to look at. What a gift.
What a gift. No, I like that because as a coach too, we work one-on-one with individual people and you get to go along the journey with them. And those things are triggers. There's there for a reason. Especially love what you said about from the past. I can't tell you how many I've had 100 coaching hours in the past year and a half for my certification. And there were things from childhood that came up and I thought, didn't know that was there. All right.
Thought I was past that one.
Yeah, like that. Barely a memory. Oh
Yeah,
no. What the book say? Your body keeps count.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yes,
Uh-huh.
exactly.
Well, for those of us listening, I'm really curious even for myself, what was it like to win the Tony?
The Tony night was incredible. And so I'm at the Tonys, in the fourth row,
Yeah.
and I'm a nominee, right? But the thing about the Tonys is that they're actually very, very long. It's not like what you see on TV, right? Like you're there for hours and hours and hours. You can't even get up to go to the bathroom. Like you're not allowed unless you have a seat filler. And you're sitting there and you're sitting there, and Best Musical is the final award of the night because it's the biggest award of the night, right? So I'm sitting there and sitting there and sitting there and sitting there. And I'm thinking I'm looking all cute. I have a designer tux on, and like I had a stylist for the stuff for the season, the whole bit, right? I'm in it. And Bernadette Peters walks across the stage. She's got that beautiful hair and she's sauntering across the stage and she's got the envelope in her hand and she's very slow and she's being very, very slow and that she's announcing the nominees. And I'm just like, come on, come on. And she opens the envelope and she says, Memphis, which is the show that I produced. And of course, the audience erupts. And I stand up and I freeze. And there were really two things that went through my mind at that moment. The first was, oh my gosh, thank gosh, thank you. My investors are going to get their money back. That was my first concern. Because of course you never know, like with a show, is it a hit? Well, this just turned into a hit, right? The second was, this is it. This isn't how this is supposed to feel. Like this is what? And the woman next to me, she like grabbed my designer tux and she like yanked on it and was like, get up there. And I started like walking up to the stage and they say it's sort of like an out of body experience. And that is exactly what it felt like. It felt completely not fully there even. And what was going through my mind was just, this is it. This can't be it. Like, this isn't what I practiced as a kid with the hairbrush in front of the mirror. This isn't how this is supposed to feel because I wasn't feeling elated and joyful the way that I thought I would. I was just numb. And it was a massive shift moment in my life because not only did it shift my life in terms of the financial trajectory, not only, all of the career, all of that, but I had a realization that if I couldn't enjoy this moment, something was fundamentally wrong with where I was at. And that sent me on a deep, deep dive, Megan, into therapy. And I worked with a teacher, a yoga teacher. I went and lived with a teacher briefly and went into a deep, deep study of ancient traditions and spiritual traditions because I hadn't really spent that boy that was running away that I was telling you about from the pain and the hurt. I hadn't really spent the time to get to know him because I was so running towards what I thought this goal was. And here I was not even 40 years old and I reached the goal that people strive for their life. And I was a bit of, in that moment, it was a little like, well, now what? Who am I? Because I didn't know who I was outside of that. And so it sent me into a deep place, honestly.
What a journey of self-discovery and unexpected too.
Yeah, I mean, I think I always thought I was on a journey, right? It's like you said, you thought in the coaching, you thought in your coaching program, you were been on that journey, but let's be real, you weren't quite yet on that journey, right? Like it kicks your butt. And I had a kick butt moment at the Tony Awards. And let me say, it was still fantastic. And yes, there were parties and it was glamour and it was all of those things, but it was also it was this mass juxtaposition for me of okay, now I know what I need to do. And I had the realization at Radio City at the Tony Awards.
One of the most interesting things I think happens to us is things aren't what we always dreamed they are.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting how you accept that, how you work through it. I think it's different for different people.
So I share that story quite a bit, right? It's one of my signature stories. And
Sure.
what you just hit on was what I call the fourth layer of storytelling. I've got this 5 layers of storytelling, and the fourth layer is that all stories that are really good stories have nuggets of wisdom. And you just caught on that wisdom. You were like, oh, that's what I relate to, right? We've all had things that just didn't live up to the expectation of what you thought. Because like 0.00001% of people in the world are ever going to win a Tony Award, but everyone's had that experience really of just not feeling the way you want it to feel or thought it would feel.
Yeah. And it comes in surprise moments too, at least it does for me. And when you find something that just is that incredible feeling you've always dreamed of, it's from something I didn't ever anticipate.
So true. So true.
Well, I know that you are also president of SoCal, National Speakers Association chapter in California. Tell us a little bit about how, you're breathing in all of your talents into that chapter, given your history and your expertise.
So when I came into the chapter, we all sort of, as presidents, we were like, this is my presidential year, and this is what I'm going to bring to the table, right? We all kind of do that in some ways. We pretend like we don't, but we really do. And I think for me, that the idea of community was what I really wanted to bring to SoCal. We are one of the beauties of California, and one of the problems for us in California is that we are so massive. We are split into two, SoCal, NoCal, but even SoCal is 8 hours from Santa Barbara. We're from Santa Barbara all the way to the Mexico border. We're Palm Springs all the way to the beach, right? We are massive. And I think that since sort of, to be perfectly honest, since COVID, we really sort of struggled in terms of building that community back, right? I think this is something that all chapters have really experienced. And so for me, that was really the goal this year, is building community. We're doing things like coffee chat online because we have virtual and live events because of our mass size. So coffee chat, free. Anyone from Houston can come join us on coffee chat.
Okay.
And really what it is it's a virtual happy hour, but with coffee over Zoom. Now you can bring your martini at 10 a.m. if you want, but most of us bring coffee. But we call it a coffee chat. We're also doing just social events like happy hour. We did a 45th anniversary party. It was the 45th anniversary of our chapter this year. So we did a big gala party. For me, really, it was about drawing people back together in a way after some years of discord because of, that was really what I wanted to do this year. And that is what I do, is I produce events, right? Like I know how to put on a show. So really it's been about that, about driving people into community and making sure that everything feels like an event. That was really my goal, so that it doesn't feel like you're coming to yet another chapter meeting. It's like, what is this event? How do we make this the event of the year every single time?
Sounds like a perfect fit for your experience and also what NSA SoCal needed.
Yeah, and there's also some structures that we put into place. We really were looking at the member journey, how to like really, because I think that you probably in Houston as well have various levels of speaker, right?
We
From
do.
the person who's just starting to that legacy member, and how do we program for all of that? So we're looking at, committee structure and masterminding and, ways in which we can make sure that everyone feels taken care of. Because I think for a few years, it felt like all the newbies were taken care of, which was needed. That was very needed, right? But we also don't want to push out our legacy people and be like, oh, well, you're put out to pasture over there. Now that I'm about to be a past president, I don't want to be put out to pasture, right? And neither did they. And so really building a cohesive structure for everyone has been a big priority as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I know we have collaborated with NSA SoCal last year. So for those of you listening, if you ever want to learn how to be a speaker and run the business behind it as well, all NSA chapters offer what we call Speakers Academy. And this is where you can take a class, either virtual or in person, depends on the chapter and the program. Well, last year we teamed up with NSA SoCal to be able to offer you some incredible speakers as they've already built their program. Nick, beyond the Speakers Academy or anything, any ideas on how our chapters can collaborate? Because the coffee chat, first of all, is now on my list.
Coffee chat. Come to our coffee chat. It's free. Anyone can come, and we do that about every other month. And really, they are just times to, yes, you may learn something. If you come with a problem, there's likely somebody there that's going to be able to help you. But really, it's about getting to know fellow speakers, because again, going sort of full circle, speakers get other speakers' business, right? That it is through our network and our connections that we get most of I don't know about you, but I get most of my business. And so consequently, getting to know fellow speakers is amazing. I'm in a mastermind of presidents from across the country, actually. There's 6 of us that get together and we try to collaborate as much as possible. And with Houston, I would say the same thing. Really come to the coffee chat. We have a virtual speaker academy. It's virtual only, so that's a possibility. But also, I think like sharing resources, sharing speakers, sharing ideas, things that are working for you in Houston that we don't know about, we need to know about, right? And vice versa.
Yeah, I love where you're going with it because it ties right back into your theme of the year in the community because the NSA meetings at the national level, you've been a chapter leader Institute for All President-elects, and then we have Influence and Thrive. And so the network is what always I really enjoy because people are willing to help. I mean, very quickly.
I mean, so generously. Like you kind of can't believe how generously, how willing people are. The spirit of Cabot, right? Really saying, what do you need? What do you need? And always willing to give and also receive. That's the other part of it. You've got to be willing to receive as well. That's been a talk about a lesson for me. I was that person who tended to give, and feel like, oh, I don't know if it's my Midwest upbringing, I'm not really sure, but that, oh, I can actually receive, be willing to receive as well.
Yeah.
Give first, of course, but be willing to receive because people are there to help you. And there isn't a hierarchy. Yes, we definitely have legacy members, people that have been around a long time, but I was recently speaking at a chapter, the Arizona chapter, and there was CSP, CPAE, Hall, award winners in that audience learning from me. You know, we all have different skills, we all have different talents, we all can learn from each other no matter where we are in the journey.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's together, I think we're stronger together. So for NSA Houston, I think it's also, we have virtual sessions. So with online about master series about how to build $1 million business. We have similar to your point about how do you program to brand new incoming and then also legacy, been here forever. So for any of them in your chapter, I'd say we have online events that are very high quality also. And we also tag up or team up with something called the Texas Alliance. So we work with and collaborate with NSA North Texas out of Dallas and NSA Austin. So for them, there's a lot of programming we can offer. And much like you, COVID shifted everything virtual. So we strive to do in-person and hybrid meetings because some people can't make it because of whatever reason.
Exactly the same. And we're in the West Coast Alliance of
Yeah. Well, there's another one. I am not surprised.
yeah.
Well, I know we've talked a lot about NSA, and I also want to give a platform to you and your business. So, what would you like to share about what you do for coaching and speaking? Because I know we talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, obviously storytelling is my sort of expertise, right? So most people come to me wanting to work on their story and their storytelling and their keynote. So really the structure of your keynote, not only how to structure a proper keynote, but then how to place the stories in a way that work so effectively that call that action so that they drive the action at the end of your talk. Because yes, a talk can be a talk, but what is the talk going to actually move people to do? And you've got to get them emotionally, which is why the stories are really helpful to do that. So that's really what I do. I coach people on their stories and on their keynotes. And I have various programs, which of course you can check out online.
Wonderful. Well, you've led me right to my next question was how do folks get in touch with you and NSA SoCal, whichever direction?
So for me, at the Nick Demas, THE, it's the Nick Demas, because believe it or not, Nick Demas was already taken.
The is necessary. I feel like
So
it's
the
just meant to
became
be.
very necessary. Made me stand out. The Nick
Yeah.
Demas, jazz hands, as we say. On LinkedIn and Instagram, and that's my website as well. You can read about all of my programs and possibilities there. And then SoCal, going to our website, nsasocal.org, is really the place to find out / events. Go to the events. You'll see all of the events that we've got there, the virtual events, the coffee chats that you all need to come join us in and get to know all of us so we can get to know each other.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I will be signing up shortly after we do this recording. So I love meeting good people and always up for meeting new people too. So thank you for sharing that to our members. My last question is you can't use the Tony Award winning. I feel like that's popular. We already talked about that. So put that on the shelf.
Okay.
But what is a secret talent or a special talent that not many people know about you?
Oh gosh. The thing about that is that, I have taken every talent I think I've ever had in my entire life and made it a business. I just don't, they're not very secret. Let's put it that
Okay,
way.
pick a
I'm not,
different one
but okay.
then.
But I can say this. Okay, I
Okay,
do have, would a guilty pleasure, like something that I kind of hide,
sure, yeah.
it's sort of like embarrassingly awful. My guilty pleasure is I watch General Hospital.
Oh, it's cool. That's still around.
It's it's still around. I know, believe it or not, it's still on the air. I've been watching it 40 years. I'm giving my
I
age here, plus, well, blah, 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 blah.
feel
But
like you need a certificate.
I've been watching it so long, and it's always, as a storyteller, it's always interesting to watch because some of the stories are so outlandish and so painfully bad. But then you're like, but they churn out, you know, 5 episodes a week for every year. How they can't all be great, but as a storyteller, I love to watch it because it's fascinating, sort of where they take the characters and the journeys, and then you feel like you know these people. I ran into one of the actors at the grocery store here in LA, and I was like, oh my gosh. I can't believe I still watch that show. And she turned to me and she goes, oh my gosh, I can't believe you do either.
Oh my goodness. I love it. And what a gift you get to see them in the grocery store.
That's very LA.
Oh, well, Nick, it's been a pleasure. Is there anything left that you'd like to share with our audience that hasn't popped up?
I want to share with your audience to really build that community and that connection. I want to reiterate those connections. They're so vital and so important. And I want to thank you for reaching out to me because here we have formed a new connection. I feel connected to you and I'm just honored. So thank you.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. And to those listening, NSA SoCal is on our list of top chapters in the nation. So we reached out to be able to bring you some value, also for us to learn together, because like we talked about, that community, that network is very important. So if you're listening, I expect you to reach out to Nick online, go follow SoCal, join the coffee chat. And if you're also from SoCal and listening, welcome to Houston. If there's ever anything we can do for you, please let us know. We have the Houston Rodeo. We just took NSA Carolinas to in March. So you have friends here should you need some support. All right. Well, that's it for our podcast this time. Please tune in to another podcast as we interview another president to bring you high value, build that network and community, and really build your business in the direction you want to go. Thanks again.